Ellie, I send you the link for the broadcast.
Hello, good morning, everyone. Thank you for attending this webinar that is going to launch our second participation in the C40 competition, reinventing students reinventing cities. This webinar will be broadcast on YouTube. Today we have a very interesting group of speakers. Not only from the municipality and Lisbon Nova, the team that is coordinating the project that supports this competition in Lisbon, but also C40 team and our special invited from the last edition, the winners, the students that won the last edition, the dreamers, and also Futuro Conectado that was awarded with a special mention. But with no further ado, I will ask Constanza to start the presentation. The floor is yours, Constanza. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Vera, and hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us today for this session of Students Reinventing Cities Lisbon. I'm gonna share my screen. Hopefully everyone can see it. I am Costanza Di Stefani, and I work at C40 as manager of the Reinventing Cities project, and I work closely with Ellie White, who will present later some more details around the framework of this global competition. Just one word on C40, for those of you who may not know it. We are the organizers of this global call for project. C40 is a network of cities. We bring together nearly 100 world-leading cities that collaborate to deliver urgent action that is needed to combat the climate crisis. And Lisbon is one of our cities. Why do we focus on cities? Well, first of all, cities occupy only 2% of the world landmass, but actually they consume over 75% of the world's energy and create over 70% of the greenhouse gas emissions. So it is crucial to focus on city action to face the climate crisis. And in this context, we decided to launch the Students Reinventing Cities program. It is already at its third edition right now. It's been very successful, so that's why we continue to engage cities and youth globally in this movement. It's an international urban design competition, and we really seek your ideas, young people ideas to find solutions to urban challenges. University students and youth from everywhere can form multidisciplinary teams and collaborate with city governments to reimagine urban spaces into green and thriving neighborhoods with projects that really align to city priorities, reduce emissions, but also improve the quality of life for local communities. How does it work in a nutshell? Cities like Lisbon have identified sites, areas, neighborhoods that they would like to revitalize, transform with your innovative ideas. We as C40 support our cities and organize this international competition together, and we invite youth teams to form groups and submit their ideas to regenerate those spaces. So who can apply? University students of any disciplines. We really try to foster this cross-sectoral collaboration and ideas. Young people over 18 can also join the competition. We decided to expand it. Initially, it was only university students, but we really decided to try to encourage participation of young people also that are not enrolled in a course. It can be local or international participants. We will hear from international team that won and got the special mention last year in the competition today. And you can form teams without a maximum number of members. So really up to you. You can engage with as many students and young people as you want. As I mentioned, we are at the third edition of this global movement. We have 17 cities that joined this year. You can see them here in blue on the map, many in Europe, from London to Barcelona to Lisbon, of course. We have Wuhan in China, cities in Africa, cities like Buenos Aires and others in Latin America, and also in the US, cities like Los Angeles. So it's really an international and global movement. We have seen over 2,000 students and young people joining thus far, and over 220 universities. So we really want to build on that number and grow it with this round. Yeah, the competition has been very successful, I would say. We have students' ideas that have been showcased with TEDx talks, in events internationally. Here we have a photo on the right of the winning team in Lisbon last year presenting to the city their innovative ideas. We have teams engaging with mayors, presenting directly to city officials, global videos showcased on our C40 network, and much, much more. So I think it's a really exciting way to engage with climate action in cities. We ask you and we evaluate the proposal that you sent based on the city's priority. How does the project really align with what is the city action plan, climate action plan, and the redevelopment expectation for the area? We seek solutions that help reduce emission and improve quality of life, really following the Green and Thriving framework that my colleague Ellie will present later in our webinar today. We look at the quality of the team. What is the design approach? Is it a multidisciplinary team? How did the team work together? And also the feasibility of the project. Of course, these projects are not necessarily implemented, but cities consider your ideas for future plans in the area. So can you consider cost, technicality, stakeholders involved, and timeline when you present your ideas? For the final proposal that will be submitted, we ask you to submit a team form where you present your team and how you work together, a project proposal where you explain what is your design concept, what is the analysis of the benefits for the community and for the environment, a graphic presentation with one illustration board and a few images that present your concept, and an implementation plan that exactly tells us how do you comply with local regulation, who are the stakeholders involved, what is the timeline, ideally, of the implementation of your project. And here, just a note on the information that is available on our website. This is the link. You can find all the info that is required. On the application guideline page, you will see the regulation that explains really what are the criteria to enter the competition. Interesting guidance document that will explain a bit more about the principles, the 10 principles for a green and thriving neighborhood, and have some recommendation on how you could implement those. For every city, we have a site form. You will find the site form from Lisbon that describes Alfama site that is in competition this year, and also a data room with some key documentation provided by the city. Again, everything is available online. There is also a question box to ask any question to us and the city. Yeah, here is under basically the application guidelines, you will find the common documents such as the regulation and the guidance. And in the city-specific page, you will find the question box and site form and data room documentation. Everything should be pretty straightforward. In terms of what you gain by participating in this competition, and again, I look forward to hear from participants from last year that can tell us a bit more about their experience. But every team will receive an official certificate signed by the mayor, a city representative from Lisboa and Nova, and the executive director of C40. You will receive coverage in both local and global communication campaign, social media, and events led by C40 and the city. You will have the opportunity to present your work, to connect with city leaders, with other leading representatives of different sectors. And also, I think it's very interesting for Lisbon because this project is very linked to the Hubin project that the city is developing, and maybe our colleagues in Lisboa and Nova will tell us a bit more, but it's great to see the connection between an actual project that is happening in the city and your ideas. And there are other city-specific prizes such as workshop exhibitions that are carried out by each city. A bit about the timeline. So we launched the competition in November. We have the team's registration. You only need to submit a team form describing your team. Also, the team can be enlarged in the second phase of the competition, so don't worry. But we want you to register your team before the 21st of March online. Then you will have time until the 20th of June to submit your project. So we'll have quite a few months for you to be able to prepare it and to work with your team on your ideas. Between March and June, we will do, led by C40, a workshop that will help you develop your proposal, again, explaining the green and thriving neighborhood concept. And then we will select the winners in July 24 and announce the winners for every city in September. There will be one winner per city and maybe some special mentions as well for every city. Again, you can register your team, you can download and fill out the team form, and please register your team before the 21st of March and just upload it through the portal. You will find a button in the Alfama Lisbon page. And yeah, thank you very much. I hope this intro was useful with all the technical information needed to submit. And I think we will open up for question at the end. Thank you. Over to you, Vera.
Thank you very much, Constanza. Exactly, we will open the questions and answers at the end of the session by chat. And also, if you want to speak directly, you can raise your hand. So, but now we have the big moment to present our past winners, the Dreamers, that are composed by Martina Idaziak. I hope that I'm spelling well. I'm sorry if not. And Ralph, that's more difficult. Fruit. So please, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Vera. Hello from my side as well to everyone. We are delighted to be here, and maybe it's a bit helpful for you guys to see how we did things and yeah, what we did there. But first, who are we? We were basically a super small team out of 2 people. We have different backgrounds. So I came from landscape architecture, did my bachelor's in Austria, and Martina did her bachelor in architecture in Poland. And together we met in Lund in Sweden, doing the master studies sustainable urban design. And we met there and had a conversation once and have quite similar interests. So we came across the competition from C40s and also with connection with Hub in that we also basically think that the current pace of life and the challenges what we face nowadays is not really accompanied with the historic urban structures and also the other way around. So we were wondering and wanted to take up on this challenge and questioning ourselves, how can we carry out the transformational adaptation to change exactly this? And our approach first was to do research, and then more research. It's super important. And we tried to kind of categorize it into the neighborhood scale, the city regional scale, and the global scale, always considering the 3 main dimensions of sustainability, ecology, economics, and the social aspect of things. And maybe you know already about Miro. It's a great tool, especially if you are bigger groups. You have an endless big canvas to add calendars, pictures, articles, really whatever you need, and it lets you keep things organized. It's open source and free to use. So we started off with this, and I think it's a great way to start a project. But always remember that it depends on the research what tools you want to use. For example, if you want to discover the environmental, social, sustainability challenges, and you might read more into scientific papers and publications, what already have been made in the area, quite a lot actually. And if you want to understand the local, all the stakeholders, like C40's Hub in and the city, look through their papers, what you get, and tools and informations. And also we were quite astonished by how much information is already published by the municipality. So definitely check out their website. But I would also recommend, if you really want to it really doesn't depend how much research you're doing. It's kind of necessary to visit the place, especially here since it's such a sensible area to design in. So if you get the chance, really consider visiting the place and see how people react in the space. Talk to people and always test your previously gained knowledge.
Exactly. And that said, with all the ideas, all the initial ideas that you have, it's always great to go in place and analyze, test, question, re-question, and evaluate whatever you come up with, so that the final idea it's really fitting to the context, since it's very sensitive context here, having many medieval buildings as well, medieval structure, lots of history, material as well as immaterial heritage, which is very important to perceive and enhance. And that's what we did. We came with some initial ideas and came to decide to test them. So having what's existing, we went on a field study. We mapped all neighborhood. We were testing different ideas on site, which helped us to write down the most important challenges that turned into focus areas that we wanted to address, that complied with the C40s and Havins challenges as well. And that's how we continued to the design process. And since the area is built, it's not an empty sheet of paper that you design on. It's the design that we ended up with was more acupuncture. So it was very important to adapt what's existing and transform towards future challenges. So as you can see here, we ended up with this big master plan with 12 different design areas. And here is just the example of the one brownfield area, which is now enclosed, and we designed it to and programmed it to what it could be according to the existing needs. And in this specific area, and also Alfama, it's very important to consider the topography of the area, since what you can see on 2D is not necessarily what it is there. We were also surprised the distances that we perceived on the map and being actually there, that it takes maybe half an hour, not 10 minutes, because of the steep topography there. And our design, I think it's downloadable through the C40 website. But if you want to know more, we wrote a master thesis about the whole area and how to change it towards the sustainable, towards the climate change challenges, but also considering the tourism and more social challenges. The link is here. We will also post it in a chat. If you're interested, you're more than welcome to go to the website and read more and get to know more. And what happened afterwards, after getting an award in a competition, we were invited to the city of Lisbon and took part in a 3 days workshop, the acceleration program, which was very exciting to attend with. And we met lots of people with the similar interests to challenge the area and to propose new solutions that could improve the current life there. So and in addition, we were also presenting to the municipality. So it was really a great opportunity to share all of ideas, all of our thoughts, and have this conversation on how the city could be actually changed. And if you have any more questions, you're more than welcome to contact us through email or on LinkedIn. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Martina and Ralph. I think that we can leave the questions for the end of the session. And now it's time to award it special mention from Imperial College of London. And Eric, please, the floor is yours. You are mute, Eric. Can you? Yes.
Yeah. Apologies. Can you see the screen?
Yes, that's good.
Okay. Okay, so first I want to say thank you for having me. And also apologies, there's no one else from my team here. It happened to have caught us quite a busy period in the term. So first I'll start off as the other team did in kind of introducing myself and explaining who the rest of my team were. So most of our members were students, civil engineering students from Team Imperial College London. We're all currently in our third year now, initially, and C4 is actually part of one of our modules that we did at university. So initially, it's part of a 1 week design week that we tend to do about once every term, and everyone in the year group would participate in it. And at the end of the week, after giving presentations and just kind of an intense work on this project, it was offered to us that, you know, if we want to continue and participate in the competition, that we would be able to. So about half of my group within the year group decided that we want to continue with it. But we also realized with the work that would be required to continue the project, we needed more people to join in. So the way we formed our group was we actually had a society at university, which was Engineers Without Borders. And we reached out to them and they held like a design-a-thon with students from across all disciplines in the university. And then we worked in different cities from C40 last year, which was like Lisbon, New Orleans. And we kind of put it out there to the whole university if anyone did want to join our group, that they would be able to. So eventually the team comprised of civil engineering students, design engineers, electrical engineers, biologists, chemists, and we also contacted a lot of students from architecture schools who were friends with those in our group. So once we kind of came about that, it was more a case of redistributing kind of the work we had already begun on. So rather than kind of starting from scratch and everyone working on their own part, because we already had, let's say, half a proposal by then, we kind of continued with what we had, and this is what we came up with. So initially, the way we set out in approaching the problem was focusing on three key aspects, which kind of community, culture, and we also noticed that some of the main issues that we had to tackle were the Money Square as well as the abandonment rates in Urania. So here you can kind of see a small map that we kind of created, just like a rough outline of what we would like to focus on, with one of the main focuses being 5-minute radial neighborhoods. Now, of course, as the previous team that Brenton mentioned, given that it's a small area, I think we did assume that it was going to be quite a small walk, but due to the elevations, we had to kind of adapt what we perceived. And then the other main issues were trying to figure out what were the actual reasons behind the abandonment issues. So we focused on kind of redeveloping housing, schools, gyms, the central square, as well as just create a community space where everyone could come together. So the first thing we tried tackling was redeveloping houses in 5-minute neighborhoods. Now, one of the main things we saw, and one of the things we struggled with, was how we'd go about redevelopment housing. And so we tackled this, again, helpful with the expertise of some of our students who are material students, design engineers, with looking at how we could change the materials that we use to make it a more welcoming space. So we thought we could possibly remove interior walls and use eco-friendly materials to try and tackle and also meet some of, you know, UN guidelines. And we propose using transparent woods, rebuilding the windows to the abandoned housing, which would allow more natural lighting as well as the ventilation. In terms of the construction process, we thought that we'd be able to use sustainable materials, of course, and we realized that many of this could actually be sourced from within Portugal itself. So, as you see, Portugal in itself has used ceramics as a sixth world largest supplier, and we also the issue was that because, of course, coming from more scientific backgrounds, I think we're very much more focused on kind of the carbon footprint side of the problem. So we went about this in a way where we kind of looked at it more from a scientific background. But by Portugal being this sixth world supplier, we're able to use ceramics, and we also thought this would be able to create more jobs for the local population. The next thing we focused on was the greenery, implementing green corridors, and this is something we'd actually researched quite a lot of previous projects at the university. So we had a lot of sources in that, and looking from my experience as well, I had just done internship in facades. So we were able to create these 3D models and drawings, which we thought would make the space more welcoming while trying to also reduce the urban heat island effect, which was one of the main aims of the project. Transportation was also a big issue due to the actual elevation of the area. And this was also one of the main focuses, try and create these 5-minute neighborhoods where everyone could kind of come together and have everything accessible. Now, of course, we understand, within some parts of the area, bike racks would not have been the most appropriate, but we still realized those, especially around the main square where you had the roads going in and out, it would be useful to kind of connect everyone into these cultural spaces. Oh, did not mean to do that. Now, the way we tried tackling and tried keeping true to the city of Lisbon and tried tackling the private neighborhood and the elevation problem was with funiculars, which, as you can see, on the right-hand side, we have the 2 proposed routes that we had. And later you'll also kind of see how we tried costing this. As previously mentioned, we also focused on schools and gyms, and one of the ways we went about this was as simple as just going on Google Maps and going on any local maps and trying to figure out which of these buildings in the area firstly were available to do this and would also, again, fit within these 5-minute radial neighborhoods that we had created, where they're a central point where everyone could access them freely. Now, another one of the areas we focused on was Jardim da Garça, and these were some of the proposed entrances, pathways, viewpoints we had, because, again, one of the main things we wanted to focus on was communities. We realized that if people were abandoning the area, and again, one of the ways you can go about this for this new project is we found quite a few documents and whole reports on local public opinions of, in this case, like Muraria neighborhood, but there also were sources out there on Alfama. And just looking through this, we always kind of get local public opinions of people from different backgrounds in a neighborhood and what they thought were the main issues behind the abandonment rates and any other problems in the neighborhood. So this, just from my recommendation experience, I think if anyone is considering doing, going for Alfama, definitely try and find that source, because if you're not able to visit the area, like previous group said, because sometimes it can be difficult, for time constraints or, money, then there are sources out there where you can still get local public opinions without having to travel there. And so from these, we kind of got some of the inspiration behind, okay, how can we properly engage the community? And one of the next things that we thought would be able to do this would be the culture. So if people haven't researched it already, one of the biggest things that's part of Muraria and Fama and the local area is fado music. And it's got a whole rich history, and we realized that this could be something that could really bring people together, especially with the local square, with the art. And so we really tried to kind of implement this. And as you can see from that initial source that I just said, this is from a quote from a local priest. So without community, there is no culture, and in reality, there can be no community if there are no people who come to permanently inhabit these spaces. And fado was one of the ways we thought we could re-implement this. Now, one of the main areas we focused our projects on, and I believe most would have focused their projects on, was the redevelopment of Martimony Square. Now, interestingly, we found that there had been previous proposals to redevelop the square with art and all kind of other accessibility routes. But if you can try and find that or similar projects in the area, it can also give you quite a good insight into why the public didn't like it. So the previous project had a lot of kind of modern art going through the square, etc. It's going to redevelop, and all the funding was there. But when it's put out to public opinion of the local people in the neighborhoods, none of them wanted to go for it. So it's always really important to consider how you think your solutions will be, taken on by the local neighborhoods. Like you as yourself might think, oh, it's really good for kind of the environment, and we think it's really modern and novel. But the most important thing is your solution has to be taken on and be welcomed by the local community. Because if they will not if they don't welcome it, if they don't like it and enjoy it, they won't engage with your proposal. And again, the same problems will still persist. So we propose again a more green route, and this is somewhat of a 3D model we tried making of the area. So as you can see, we implemented a little fountain and throughout this whole area there'll be benches to sit on. And at the end is like a small amphitheater where we thought it would be nice for people, for example, to have shows of fado music to bring people communities together. And as well, there's also a market, like a food market, which we thought we could still host in this area as well. So here is a bit more of a top-down view of what this would look like. And another issue we wanted to tackle, maybe from a more engineering perspective, was the water management. So we did notice that was a current lack of facilities. And of course, given that we wanted to install fountains, etc., in the garden, we had to figure out how would we source this water, not only for kind of aesthetic purposes, but also for drinking purposes for the community. So from some of our modules that we had done in civil engineering, we tried focusing on aquifers and how we could draw water from these aquifers. And of course, some of it is quite expensive. Reverse osmosis being obviously extremely expensive. But we settled on a circular system, which would take water from dams, bio waste centers, houses, and would go through these different primary treatments and secondary clarifiers before then being able to be sold back to fountains and back to the houses. This is a simple schematic, but it gives you a general idea of how we'd go about it. And this is a general time frame of all these solutions would come together. So first, and always important to consider, is you always have to take into account the planning stage. A lot of people jump into kind of saying, oh, this is going to happen straight away. But everyone has to always understand there's always a planning stage before any of this happens. Now, make sure as well to kind of think of how a lot of these solutions can be simultaneously implemented. So when we first started the project, and this was more so help from our professors, we very much kind of had our time frame going from this is one step, this is the next step, this is the next step. And luckily we had the help of two of our professors who continued to help us after that design week, namely Dr. Sunday Popol and Dr. Mike Cook. And they suggested that, for example, with Martin Money Square, say we were trying to redevelop the square, the issue would then be is that any machinery that's trying to come into the area for the redevelopment would cause traffic jams, would make accessibility a lot worse for the local community. So make sure when you are developing your solutions, try and think of the logistics. So as you can see, we'd go about a lot of the energy solutions trying to implement at the same time. And finally, at the end, once these other accessibility issues had been considered, we could then target Money Square, which of course would be one of the most expensive, but one of the most rewarding. And that is a general just overview of our project. Again, apologies, more of us weren't here, so they could share more of their insight of how they went about it. But I hope that you enjoyed the presentation, and that if you have any questions, again, let us know at the end.
Thank you very much, Eric, and also Martina and Ralph. These were two fantastic projects, but let me just highlight that in the past edition, we have 19 teams applying, and it was very difficult to choose the winners and the special mentions because we have a high quality of applications that I hope that we remain to keep the same level this year. And thank you for your advices also for the next teams that will apply. And now we go back again to C40 with Ellie White that will talk about the main guidelines of the competition. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Vera, and thank you, Eric, and to Ralph and Martina for your great presentations. I'm just going to share my screen so I can present a little bit more about the framework that we really advocate for at C40, which I hope that in the two student presentations that you've just seen, how they took this approach and maybe applied it slightly differently, but really those principles were embedded in their designs and obviously were rewarded for doing so. So just to take a step back, kind of why are we advocating for a new urban model and a new way of approaching designing neighborhoods and cities? Obviously, we saw kind of a mass expansion of cities in the previous century, a lot of the time meaning that neighborhoods became very specialized or became very car-oriented. And this has kind of led to many of the challenges that we're facing today, you know, whether that be poor air quality or just, you know, a hectic urban life that leads to quite poor, you know, well-being or satisfaction with where you're living. And this is kind of the rationale that we see in our daily lives of why we kind of want to think about a new way of doing things. And really, you know, obviously at C40, we have lots of different ways that we can tackle the impact of the climate crisis on our cities. But I'd just like to highlight the statistic that, you know, integrated spatial planning itself could actually reduce greenhouse gas emissions by approximately 25% by 2050. So thinking about how we can support our cities and neighborhoods to integrate a more mixed use or community-based focus into design and planning could actually really have a significant impact, not only on, you know, residents and communities' well-being, but also a really positive impact on the environment as well. And to achieve that kind of reduction by 2050 is, you know, a really big deal, actually. So I'd invite you to consider, you know, when you're thinking about your projects, and what I'll discuss in just a moment, when we're talking about the green and thriving approach, how interventions can be both green in terms of their impact on the environment, but also benefit the people that live there. So just to skip back to my previous slide, this all kind of relates to the proximity approach. So it's an approach that has many different names, can be implemented in many different ways. You can see here some of the examples across the world. For example, you know, the 15-minute city, you might have heard of that, but, you know, thinking about how cities can really be more livable and more green is kind of at the core of this concept that has many different names. I would kind of say the overarching concept or thing that we're advocating for is thinking about how the neighborhood in itself or the community in itself can be a thriving hub in its own right. So rather than having, you know, a monocentric flow, so having this hub where everything is in the center of the city, that often means that neighborhoods around the center get neglected or left behind. How can we inject more life into the neighborhood and community themselves? And the ways that we can do that, it kind of stems down to thinking about, you know, the mix of people that you have in a neighborhood. So can we offer more affordable housing options? Can we offer, you know, more facilities and amenities so people, you know, want to stay in the neighborhood and be happy and thriving where they are themselves? And that can be kind of done through offering more different uses in a neighborhood. So not having it super specialized and having only one function. But integrating, you know, more shops, more local services, and also public spaces so that people can really enjoy the environment that they are living in. So kind of taking this concept, C40 has its own what we call green and thriving approach. And for this competition, we have identified 10 principles, which you can see on the right hand of the screen, which kind of break down certain sections of this approach. So overall, green and thriving, what do we mean by that? I've kind of touched on this previously, but making sure that the way that we design neighborhoods is both green, so considers the environmental impact. That doesn't have to just be emissions reduction. It can also be thinking about climate resilience. You know, is a neighborhood or city equipped for the impacts of the climate crisis, such as urban heat or flooding? And also thinking about how a neighborhood and cities can be more thriving. So how can the measures that we take to transform these places actually benefit the people that are living there rather than push those people out and contribute to gentrification? So now I'm just going to run through the 10 principles. I would just like to flag at this moment that You do not need to address all of these principles in your proposals, and actually, depending on the site, and for example, in the case of Lisbon, the Alfama neighborhood, you might see already that some of these principles might be more relevant to this site than others. That's totally okay. We just want to see that you have, you know, taken a look at this approach and thought about the measures that are most relevant and the principles that are most relevant for this site in your project. Sorry, my voice. Okay, so I would also like to flag that we have a guidance document online, which I'll share in the chat just shortly, which explains these principles in more detail. And I would definitely invite you to take a look at that as well. So just to run through the principles quite quickly, you might be familiar with these, you might not, but one of them is the idea of complete neighborhoods. So I touched on this previously, but basically, how can we ensure that the neighborhoods themselves have a mix of uses? You know, how can we take a building and, you know, have accommodation, but then also an active ground floor, and really utilizing the space and the infrastructure that already exists in the neighborhood? And how can we, you know, use that infrastructure to create more services that are available locally for residents? Again, thinking about people-centered streets and mobility. So this is really relevant for the site in Lisbon, thinking about how, you know, public spaces are used and, you know, could they be better enhanced so that they are, you know, more suitable for residents. They're a place that you want to enjoy being in rather than just a route through the neighborhood itself. And thinking about, you know, the timeline of your measures. Obviously, for kind of wider implementation of things, that takes a long time, but could you think about temporary activation of spaces through kind of tactical urbanism measures that can actually be implemented quite quickly and can make a big change to residents' quality of life? Clean construction. So again, this might not be super relevant to the site because I doubt you want to be constructing a big new development, but just to bear in mind, and I think that Eric touched on this previously, you know, if you are thinking about constructing or retrofitting something, thinking about where materials come from, can they be sourced locally, and thinking about the emissions in the whole process of construction. So not only the site itself, but, you know, where do materials come from, thinking about the whole system itself of construction. Green economy. So this touches on how the measures that we implement can benefit the residents themselves by injecting some economic value into the area. So could the measures you take actually, you know, boost the number of jobs in the area, or could they train residents in new green skills? Could you offer spaces for certain sustainable businesses, for example? A place for everyone. So again, this is really important, particularly when you're looking at kind of the demographics of the area, you know, who already lives in the area, what kind of populations are there, do these populations interact, what do the residents themselves want to see out of the changes that you propose? So again, inviting you to look at any engagement that's been done with communities and really understand, you know, what the residents themselves would like to see for the area, and really taking that vision on board, because as Eric mentioned, you know, you need to design and plan with the community and have them involved in the process so that, you know, the measures that you take actually reflect the needs of the residents themselves. Connected places. So again, thinking about how a city can be both physically connected. So is it easily walkable, easily accessible via bike, for example, but also digitally connected? That's one of the main barriers, I think, to neighborhoods feeling very disconnected from, you know, an urban center and not very accessible. Really thinking about how you could easily move in and out of the neighborhood through both physical interventions and also digital interventions. Green energy and buildings. So again, thinking about, and I believe Vera will touch on this later, but one of the focuses that you could choose to prioritize for Alfama is really thinking about renewable energy sources and how those could be integrated into the site. So again, this might come quite naturally you might naturally address this principle when you're thinking about the expectations and priorities for redevelopment that the city has identified for the sites. Circular resources, this is a huge one, and I'm sure you will have seen this reflected in both the proposals that the students presented, really thinking about circularity. In the case of Lisbon, that often can be related to water, but also waste management. So really thinking about how we can really maximize and utilize the resources that we have to create a more circular economy, and thinking about how we can minimize resource use as well. Sustainable living, this concept kind of, I guess, comes through all the different intervention measures, but also having that kind of mindset of, you know, how can I make sustainable choices easy? You know, how can I make walking and navigating an neighborhood really easy? How can I make accessing a green space easy for residents themselves? So really thinking about how you can enact behavior change through the interventions that you propose. Still going, I think maybe we've only got a couple more, but again, green spaces, nature-based solutions, thinking about how you can use the materials and resources that are already within the neighborhood to not only improve residents' well-being through green spaces, but also thinking about how those interventions can actually boost climate resistance. So I talked about kind of the non-permeable surfaces and how green spaces can actually help reduce the urban heat island effect. So really thinking about the dual benefits of any measures that you decide to implement. I kind of touched on this, but just the low carbon hierarchy. So again, how can you think about reducing the emissions produced, but actually avoiding them in the first place? How can you think about renewable energy as well? So there's lots of different scales to how emissions kind of enter and are embodied in the neighborhoods, and there's different ways to kind of think about mitigating that input. So I invite you to take a look at this. There's more details on this in the guidance, which I will share in the chat shortly. That's all from me. So I'm going to pass back over to Vera, who will, I think, go into a little more depth about the site and competition this year. Thanks, everyone. And I'll be available at the end for any questions.
Thank you, Ellie. So let me just share my screen. So now we are going to talk a little bit about the site itself, and also about our connection with the project that it is the BEAN project that it is supporting this competition. So as a general context and motivation, we are working in a BEAN, which is an international project overall coordinated by Lisbon Nova. And the main motivation is to tackle challenges of historic urban areas. Very briefly, in general, historic urban areas across Europe, even different with specific challenges and needs. There are some communalities, the touristification of some sites, the building and public spaces degradation, in some cases, the urban segregation, gentrification, abandonment, and aging. So those are some topics that could frame the context of the project, BEAN. And as we say, a BEAN project, it is a European project that covers 8 pilot sites, including Lisbon and the area that we are now launching in this competition. And we have also another stage of the project that it is already ongoing, that is the purpose of connecting all these 8 hubs of innovation, and also with scaling up this network for follower cities, with the purpose of creating an BEAN alliance that will remain and will grow even after the end of the project. That will be next year, February 25. So this is the context that, and you will have all the documents and a lot of tools that will support your research to apply to this competition that Diana will speak later in detail. But the work is pretty much focused in 3 clusters of innovation that we called resilient and connected places, and also new lifestyles and culture and creative industries. As I said, this is an ongoing project with more than 3 years already of deep work, international work with international universities and international partners. And we have been work a lot, and those are just examples of tools that we produced and that could be also interesting to support your work. From business models to framework to an ABIN atlas that covers more than 90 cases in different countries, or even also in terms of monitoring the hubs of innovation that we are building, or a geo tool that you can also consult for ABIN Colina do Castelo. So we have a very large types of tools and guides that are supporting this work of building hubs of innovation across Europe. Okay, but ABIN Lisboa, Colina do Castelo, it is the hub that we are creating, the hub of innovation. And we have a vision and we have a plan, of course. And our vision, it is indeed to be, we aim that this hub, Colina do Castelo, could be an engine of transformation, of sustainability and well-being of the communities. And we are proposing to do this by engaging different stakeholders, the community, and with the purpose of sharing this convergence between innovation and traditions. So this is our vision. And and we have done a lot of work so far. In last year, we launched the Lisbon Roadmap, which is a strategic document that defines the context, the challenges of the area, and we have also 3 missions. The missions that we have are, of course, interconnected and covers. I mean, they are the umbrella of this competition, and it is to promote a circular neighborhood, but linking cultural heritage with innovation. The second mission, it is to boost creativity and to boost the local businesses and the creative industries. And the mission 3, where we are more focused anchoring this competition, it is about the promotion of climate action. Let me just go back a bit, because I didn't say in this slide that the ABIN Colina do Castelo cover different neighborhoods that are outlined here in this map. But you will see later that we are now in this challenge focused in a small area, which the name is Alfama, and I will talk later. So after the roadmap and the strategic plan, we produced a more operational action plan that to define what we are going to do and to test during this time frame of the project ABIN. Of course, following and the main 3 missions. So we have 4 main activities. One, it is to ignite the hill, the Colina do Castelo Will. And this is about networking and creating and to boost the creative industries. I'm not going into much details. You can also read the action plan document. We are also working in an incubator. It is an acceleration program to boost the green economy within the Colina do Castelo. The third action, it is about to create pop-up communitary spaces to develop and to foster sustainable local solutions. And the fourth action that I will talk a little bit more in detail, we called the Sprout Tank. And the Sprout Tank, it is the action that we are proposing to connect with this challenge for Alfama and for this competition. And what we are testing with this program, Sprout Tank, it is to create a living laboratory in Colina do Castelo to foster neutral and innovative climate solutions in different perspectives. Okay, so for Alfama, as I said, it is this area within the area covered by the ABIN Colina do Castelo, and Alfama is a very traditional and historic neighborhood in Lisbon with very specific characteristics because they have a very sharp slope topography, also composed by narrow streets and stairways, a lot of stairways. So those topographic characteristics are important to consider the solutions that are going to be developed, obviously. And also in terms of community, we still have a strong neighborly relations, although we have some heterogeneous profiles, not only the old residents, where we can feel more these strong neighborly relations, but also new residents with different purposes and aims, and also temporary residents, such as visitors and tourists. So there is different types of profiles that we need to take into account. Traditionally, there is a traditional link to the river and the port activities in this area. And just continuing this brief information about Alfama, what we can highlight: a loss of population and aging gentrification. As I said, we have a lot of tourists using local accommodations in this area. You can see on the right that we have just almost 4,000 inhabitants and almost 26,000 of tourists using local accommodations. So there is a huge imbalance. More information, this is also important to highlight. 20% of elderly people live in isolation. Regarding natural resources, a very good solar exposition. Water resources are very important in this area, especially thermal water fountains. And finally, in a nutshell, I can also say that this area, in this area, we are lacking a lot of greens, we are lacking green spaces. You can see here in this infography that just 1%, so there is a percentage of streets, this is a percentage of streets per number of trees, and more than 10 just have 1%. Well, regarding the climate change in Lisbon, we have different instruments, planning instruments that could support your research. For example, the Climate Action Plan. And I extracted this information briefly from the Climate Action Plan for Lisbon. And you can see that this is an area, Lisbon overall, it is an area that suffers with heat waves. And this is especially important in the city center where we are focused, our work. Also a risk of floodings and also the elevation of the sea level are some of the challenges that we are facing in Lisbon. And what I would like to highlight it is that this area of the city area, the historic city urban area of Lisbon, it is even more exposed to this kind of climate challenges, not only because of the profile of the population, the gentrification, the touristification, the old people that lives there with low income conditions. So this is a situation that increases the level of exposition to climate challenges, but also the lack of green areas, the morphology, and of course the building stock, that it is old. Some of them are already renewed, but not all, and also sometimes not with not complying with all the regulations in terms of energy efficiency and also regarding the thermal comfort. So this is, of course, completely connected with our mission 3 for a Bean Colina do Castelo. And so how can you help? This is the question that I will leave to you, us to achieve our mission 3, promote climate action and making it compatible with the cultural-led urban regeneration of Colina do Castelo, creating by this way a better living conditions and comfort for local communities. And now I will move to my colleague Diana. The floor is yours, Diana, to talk a little bit more in terms of the challenges for the students.
Thank you, Vera. Thank you, Vera. After this context, we are now going a bit inside of the challenges that we thought for this competition, because we are addressing this in quite different way from last year. As you saw from the winner projects, the scope was quite broad scope. They analyzed the area in many different perspectives, but in this year will be a bit more focused, because as you saw in the with the presentation of Vera, we are now in a different situation where we had an action plan, when we are developing already some more actions in the territory. So we want to address more some in experiment kind of interaction with the works. So first, regarding of the shape of the challenge, we propose that you respond to the area's challenges, of course, and present solutions in general way to improve climate adaptation and resilience, and do it through or the development of a prototype or prototypes, or to present solutions, benchmark solutions that are adapted to the challenge that I'm going to reveal, or use both. And these should consider aesthetic, artistic, and of course heritage characteristics, because this is an area that is full of heritage. So for example, when I speak about benchmarking solutions, it's not just about seeing what is going on and what can come here, but it's really about exploring this concerning the territory that we have, concerning the community, concerning all the environment that there is, and then use it in a more applied way. For example, last year, many people, I know that not everybody can come to Alfama, but sometimes some students just looked in the map and they give solutions in this area of the map, and they didn't know if that's a square, if that's they look at a bit of in terms of numbers. So for us, it's important to know which street is that, what happens in that street. If you cannot visit Alfama, you can investigate a bit on that. So we zoom in a bit on what is happening on the areas. Vera, please. So the objectives are the following in terms of the content of the works: to develop innovative solutions in outdoor spaces. For example, we give urban furniture, but it doesn't have to be. To help reducing the impact of the urban heat island and heat waves, because as Vera said, it's something that is more and more relevant in the neighborhood. And also, as you are doing this, also use this as a way to stimulate the interaction between the community, to improve social dynamics, to make it an appealing for the residents, for the people that come from outside, to use this also as a community vehicle. Also, to incorporate renewable energy infrastructure that could be integrated into the historical urban landscape. There is a potential for this for renewable energy production in this area, and there is a lot of barriers concerning the heritage And we still have a lot to go on finding innovative solutions on how to tackle this and how to experiment solutions for this. And finally, to enhance the use of local water resources, promote circular solutions to close the urban water cycle. And we also advise you to consider the tangible and intangible aspects related to the invisible waters of Alfama. We also give in the data room, we'll also give some advices for some data that you can gather about this. Vera, can you move on, please? So just to for a glimpse on the data that is available on the data room, you can access different documents that are available. I must say that some of these documents, they talk about the whole area of Colina do Castelo, and Alfama is only one of the neighborhoods, but they are, so you have to choose what is the best part for this, for you, but they always have this Alfama information inside it. So you have a strategic documents of the city, like the climate action plan or adaptation, for example. Then you have also documents that give links to find other documents and other websites interesting. The Hubin documents like the roadmap and the action plan that Vera was talking about, so that they set also the basis for these challenges. Then there is a report, a design thinking report that was also a study made which set the ground to create the roadmap. So it had some investigation on the community, on the place, on the field, on the areas, on different perspectives. It's also very interesting to visit, and also about the stakeholders and the people that that are involved in this area. And also we have a document which I advise you to visit, that are some insights of the area of the Colina do Castelo. Vera. So also we have a geo tool that you can visit, which has a lot of information, georeference information, and gathers a lot of data about this area, the pilot area, and where you can find maps. For example, these examples tackle specifically the challenge that we spoke about. So one is about on the left side, you have the solar potential for this area for production of energy, and then you have another map about the water sources, and another one about the trees that are in the area. And please visit also the Alfama Sushi Toolkit. You will have the presentation this after. You can visit the links. Vera, please. So just about the awards for Lisbon, as they will not be exactly as last year's, because this year's program is different inside the project, and they're a bit ongoing, but you'll have the opportunity to present the project to Lisbon policymakers. This also happened last year, actually. To present the project within the scope of Hubin, so internationally or nationally, to access the resources of the Hubin project, to participate in the community of knowledge that is being created within the historical urban area of Lisbon. Also, we will be organizing a conference, a final conference of the project in November. So the winner teams can also participate here. We will see in what way the participation can be promoted, and other synergies can appear, as it happened already with the last year's winners. Yes, Vera? And just to give you, if you are in Lisbon next week, I visit you to come with us on an urban expedition to Alfama, which is with no doubt the best way to know the territory and to get a feel of the territory better. So thank you. Yes, that's all for now.
Thank you very much, Diana. So you are all invited, if possible, to attend next week the visit to Moraria. So now it's time to I'm going to stop here. It's time to have some moments of questions and answers. I'm not seeing any question here in Q&A, but maybe someone wants to raise the hand and pose some questions. I'm not seeing anyone. Flip, are you seeing someone asking questions? I'm not sure if I'm seeing everyone.
No, no questions.
No questions so far. Well, we don't have...
Very clear, Vera, we were very clear.
We were very clear. People are shy, but don't be shy. You can ask whatever you want. For sure that there are doubts. I think that we still have here Eric, but not, unfortunately, we don't have already Martina and Ralph. But maybe
Yes.
I can.
There
Yes?
is one hand up. There is one hand up.
There is one hand up. Okay, thank you. Let me just check who is, because I'm not seeing.
There is a question here from Flip.
One question also. No. I don't have a group. What should I do?
Guiomar Surumanho.
Sorry?
Guiomar Surumanho.
So let me just
É.
let's keep on mantenha aí assim o Guiomar Surmanho just a moment, because we have here also a question on the chat. I don't have a group. What should I do? Should I address this to Heli and Constanza?
Yes, I'm happy to answer. Of course, this is, you know, a lot of people don't have a group, and that's totally fine. So what we've created is a team up form, which I will send you the link to. So everyone that's looking for a team, I think we've got like 150 responses or something like that. You can fill out which city and site you're interested in, a bit about you and the expertise you could bring to the team, and then it will be added to a spreadsheet where you can look and see other people that have also expressed interest in the same same site, and then you can reach out to them according to that sheet. So I will share that form with you just now, and don't worry, because you still got a month until the registration deadline, so that's more than enough time to, you know, fill out the form and connect with people that you might like to be in a team with.
Okay, thank you, Ellie. So, João, can you just open the sound for the...
Yes.
Hello, I don't know if you can hear me. You can.
Yes, Guiomar. Thank you.
I thank you for the presentation. I just wanted to ask if we will be if it will be shared with us, with the participants.
The presentation?
Yes.
So as I said in the beginning, this is broadcasting
Okay.
on YouTube, and the presentations it will be shared, of course.
Okay,
Can you
perfect.
confirm, Ellie and Constanza? Okay.
Yes, definitely, and we'll follow up with an email and the recording. And
Okay,
we'll share
thank you
it
so
on the
much.
website.
Thanks.
And maybe
Thank
we
you.
can add the YouTube streaming link also in the chat, Lisbon and Nova team, if we can add it there. So, but
Sure.
it will be on our Students Reinventing Cities website. In the Lisbon page, you will see everything: presentation, streaming, all of it.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
And any question, you can come to us for Lisboa Nova, for a BIN, or for C40,
Yes.
as you wish. I don't know if we have any. I'm not seeing all the attendees. I'm not sure if I have any other question. No? I don't think so. So so if you don't have any other question, I would like just to ask Eric because one thing that was very interesting in your beside all the contents and scientific contents of your work, it was a very multidisciplinary team, as of course we are requesting in this competition, and it is a must. Because how did you manage that challenge of bringing together so many different profiles and skills?
Yeah, I mean, so as I said earlier, I mean, I think there was one benefit that we had was in obviously kind of most of the team being part of the same university. So even though they were multidisciplinary as well, like Imperial being a fully STEM university, although we might have been different kind of degrees in different courses, we were still somewhat like a common language to communicate in terms of all being, kind of like science or engineers. But with regards to kind of actually how we kind of allocated different people's kind of skill sets to different parts of the project. So some people first we just kind of had an open question if there were any people, any certain parts of our project people were interested in working on more than others. But then we thought more about how some of their skills in their degree or some of their knowledge in their degree would be transferable. So for example, we thought that maybe the people who did kind of like more biological subjects would be able to help with, for example, the implementation of like green walls and greenery. They might have, more knowledge on, for example, are there certain species of plant that could actually that are local to the area or that could be more beneficial for actually reducing urban heat island effects. Other people like a design engineer that we had in the group, because her degree was very much more focused on, of course, the engineering part, but they also, for example, her degree is kind of tended towards like an entrepreneurship type situation. So it's like the kind of the aim by any of it is to be able to, kind of present your own product, come up with your own product and market it. So we thought, well, if she's kind of good with software, maybe kind of more presentation side of things, this person would be more helpful in maybe kind of making some of the graphics for kind of the presentation we have and implementation plan, etc. So it's more so maybe not directly applying their knowledge, but maybe more so transferable skills or skill sets that they had within their degree. And then how could that be applied to what we already had?
Thank you, Eric. That was a fantastic work because this is something very difficult to organize, I suppose. And definitely. It is a must to do interventions in a city with a lot of different challenges. If you don't, and this capacity that you had within the university to create this multidisciplinary team, it was very interesting, very important for the success of your project. Thank you. I don't know if we have any other question or Ellie, Constanza, would you like to have some comments? Not at all?
Oh, Ellie.
No, just to say it's really great to see so many people joining the webinar today. Like Vera said, we will share all the material afterwards. Rest assured that you've got, about a month left to register your team. That registration step is really easy. You just need to give us kind of some details about your team, where you're from, and then you've still got a while, until June to submit your project. So really amazing to see so many of you today, and we hope that many of you will enter the competition.
Maybe one note on what Ali said on the registration and why we do it, because some people are like, why is there a first step of registration? We like to have a cohort of registered team and interested students to then run a workshop just for the registered teams. So that's why we decided to do this two-step. Again, you can enlarge your team for your final project. So really the registration is the first step. But yeah, I don't know if Eric joined last workshop, but generally we had a very good feedback from teams that registered and then participated in that workshop run by C40 with some external expert. I see Eric nodding, so that's why. And I just want to thank everyone for staying online. We still have a very high number of participants. So good luck. It's very interesting to see the link with Habin priorities and really what the action plan that Lisbon is already carrying out. So your project will be really very useful, I think, for Lisboa Nova, for the city, because it's going to be very aligned with their priorities. So
Good luck.
Indeed, because this is a living work, living work that we are doing, an ongoing work, and so many synergies could be raised. So you are all invited to apply and to, if possible, to visit next week the place. If not possible, no problem, because you have a lot of material to work. And you have also our contacts. You can reach out to us if you need, all of us. And good luck. Thank you very much, everyone. See you soon.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Até já. Bye bye.
Thank you.